Okay, I think we're actually probably good now. If you can hear a little bit of background noise, sorry about that. Hopefully this mic setup works a bit better and it sort of drowns out the background noise a bit. Sorry I'm a bit late today too. Trying to get this microphone set up once again was a little bit annoying. So, hey everyone. I haven't streamed in a long time, and by long I mean a few weeks, which is a long time for me. The past year I think I streamed about every 2 weeks, and so I want to take a little break for April, hit 100,000 subscribers, and I just knew I was going to want to relax a bit for that. But I'm back streaming. As always, link in the video description, or the stream description, I suppose, for the link to the next stream, which is in about a month. Trying to think. Okay, good. Sound is good. Yeah. So basically, I'm going to probably stream like once a month going forward. Also, I'm going to wait, as usual, for more people to come online. So yeah, okay, only coming through one channel. Okay, yeah. So 10 seconds. Okay. Hopefully this fixes it. Someone can say if it has been fixed. Hopefully it's been fixed. So yeah, we'll see. Again, as always, I'm going to wait a bit for people to come online. If you haven't, please check out today's video on Perth. It was a ton of work, and there's a whole situation going on with videos right now. Some of them are back, as you've probably noticed. A lot of them are not. But yeah, watching the Perth video would help a ton because things are a little crazy right now with the channel, which is unfortunate. I'm trying to kind of make it seem like it's a good thing. It's really not. Terrifying, not good. But yeah, watch the Perth video. People are coming in. I wonder if Reece has a favorite color. Gray. Sorry, you know. I've been working on a bunch of videos for next week, which I'm really excited about. This week, I went on a trip to Ottawa. So in terms of topics for today, probably I'm going to talk about what I have learned in 5 years of doing YouTube and being an online content creator. Also, thank you, Roy, for the super chat. At the same time, I'm also going to talk about the trip to Ottawa, so if you have questions about that or the O-Train expansion, I'll happily discuss those. And beyond that, I guess what's coming next with the channel. There is something, a bit of an announcement that I will make, and if you may have seen it if you're a select few, but if not, you will find out about this announcement today. So I think that's kind of cool, and yeah, should be good. So I'm just going to wait maybe a minute longer, and then I'm going to get into talking about what I've learned after 5 years of YouTube. And do folks want to see the plaque? Because if so, I probably can get that out and show you. It's cool. So I have kind of two questions. The first is, everyone is commenting about joining Nebula, including on the video I did about 100,000 subscribers. What I'm curious about is why is everyone suddenly commenting about Nebula? Seems like a lot of people at the same time commenting about it. And second, Nebula is an invite only thing as far as I know, so we're gonna have to wait on that, see if I get invited. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm just going to turn the camera for a second and grab the plaque, so stay tuned. Hopefully things are good. Okay, looks good to me. Well, someone noticed I got a haircut. Yes, I had been avoiding it for a long time. Let's see. When reposting removed videos, can you make a note of it in the description? I am not reposting all of them. Some of them will just come back. They're not they'll just come back. For ones that I do repost, I'm going to put a pinned comment, which I've already kind of been doing. So yeah, the explained videos will probably be reposted. So there are a few that are going to come back still: Sao Paulo, Taipei, London, Swedish high-speed rail. So yeah, it should be interesting. And that is not stuff that I want people talking about in the stream. So yeah. Let's see. Looking through the various messages. Okay. So yeah, the plaque comes in this lovely plaque box, and inside there is some paperwork. Someone asked, so if you are watching now, my plaque was boxed by Rick. Thanks, Rick. It comes in a plastic bag, which is nice. I probably need to get it out of the plastic bag. As it turns out, you can actually also buy additional plaques, which is something I didn't realize, but that's cool. I like that. So here is the plaque. You can kind of see it. It's heavy. It's metal. I like it. So yeah, that's that. I might hang it like, I guess I could hang it here. That would be kind of cool. We'll see what happens. I hate to say it, but who knows where I'm going to be in the future. So I'm a little, this is terrible, but I'm a little antsy about actually doing the extra plaque. I'm not sure how much additional plaques cost. Someone asked. I think you have to reach out directly to the company that manufactures them, and they'll probably tell you the cost. So, yeah. It has a very nice new plaque smell to it, which I appreciate. Let's close this up. Cool. So, let's get on with today's various topics. And I don't know if I already said, but welcome YouTube member Jacob. San Diego has chosen to link the airport to downtown San Diego with an APM, an 8-minute one-seat ride with 4-minute frequencies. That sounds really good. I'm curious what APM technology will be chosen. And I hope it's good. I hope it's not a gadget Bonnie type technology. I mean, it will be, but there's a spectrum, right? I hope it's not like a cable pulled system like in Toronto or in Oakland. I hope it's more like what Phoenix has. So the Innovia APM, which seems more standard. And it's actually like a train system, which is kind of cool, whereas the cable systems are not. Okay, so let's continue down here. What did you think of the Ottawa Confederation line? Well, I've ridden it before. I think it's really nice. I've anecdotally never had a problem with it, but I don't daily commute on it, and I don't really ride it during peak periods, so I'm not the person to ask about that, but I think it's really nice. Can you talk about shuttle buses in your videos? Yeah, I think I will do a video about shuttle buses at some point. Did you hear about the big changes being announced on the REM Monday? I heard-ish, but there's not really clarity about what it is, so should be interesting. Have you considered your videos comments on projects in progress, or are they not things you talk about finished and others not? I'm not sure what you're necessarily asking. I will probably be talking about Dresden at some point. And I have a little challenge for people if you're watching this stream, which is that if you have a bad example of wayfinding, public transit wayfinding, please email it to me. I have my email listed in my channel description. You get bonus points for the better the place's reputation is for public transit. So if you can have bad wayfinding in Singapore, bad wayfinding in London, bad wayfinding in Tokyo. I mean, Tokyo has its struggles. If you have pictures of anything or examples that you think are really good, please send them to me, because I'm actually doing a course on wayfinding, or I'm presenting at a course for wayfinding, and so it would be really helpful. Now, I mentioned I was going to talk about what I've learned in 5 years of YouTube. I made some notes, which is why my face is being illuminated now. Let's talk about that. 5 years of YouTube and what I've learned. because I think it's interesting. I know some people who watch my channel are also creators, and so I think it'd be interesting to kind of cross-compare. But I think it can also just be interesting in general for people who might be considering posting things and stuff like that. Let's see. Huh. Recently binged a bunch of your videos and brought up so many great memories of engineering classes. Very nice. So, the first thing I want to say is it is really incredible after 5 years of YouTube how many interesting people I've met via live streams and comments and people reaching out. It's been truly super cool. There's something so special about, you know, putting something out on the internet and meeting people and discussing and finding out information you didn't necessarily know. And that's certainly been a big thing that's influenced me over the years. And not the only thing, obviously, but people often ask, oh, where do you learn about this or that? And sometimes people do send me emails or messages on Twitter or Instagram and talk to me about various different topics. And it's a really good way of gathering information. Open this up. Yes, there is something in the dryer. Apologies. I would stop it, but I don't want to waste energy. So, what should be built first? Blue line extension to Lynn or commuter rail electrification? I have my notes written in like sections, so that's just like my first section, and I will continue down as I go. So I'll answer a few things or respond to a few things and then continue. I don't have strong feelings about what Boston should do first. The commuter rail electrification is a pretty common sense project that should definitely be done, though. San Diego's APM will cost $4 billion for 3.7 miles. So pretty sure they're splurging on the good stuff. Well, they better be, because $4 billion for 3.7 miles is insane. If you have information about this, should definitely send it to me. I would be super interested to see like what they're specifically planning. Yeah, that's crazy. What are we talking about? Okay, so another thing I've learned after 5 years of doing YouTube is that a lot of people in various communities, but notably in the transit community, often share similar opinions, even if they aren't necessarily talking about it. And it's a really good idea to talk about, you know, your opinions on different issues and things you think could be improved and the like, because more likely than not, a lot of other people are thinking the same thing as you, and speaking up can be really helpful. I think that's why Twitter is really cool, because Twitter is kind of like YouTube in that way. Like, you can put your thoughts out into the world and people can respond to them, but without the necessary work of making a video. So that makes Twitter quite nice. And I will also say, there is so much content out there that hasn't been created, and so many things that, you know, people could make videos about and talk about that would be super interesting, and that I think would really contribute to the world of public transportation, infrastructure in cities. And so I really recommend that if people are interested in making channels, they should definitely consider it, or at least just posting stuff casually or blogging. I think it's a really good option, and you can learn a lot, meet a lot of people, and you can actually help make a positive impact by documenting your local transit system, which I think is really valuable. I mean, even just going into your local transit system's Wikipedia and finding what doesn't have a picture of it and taking pictures would be great. So those were my positive comments. I have some negative comments as well, but I'm going to look at the chat a bit more before I talk about the negative comments. Or negative learnings, you could say. And I should also say that if you're just coming onto the stream now, I'm going to be streaming once a month going forward, a little less frequently. It takes a lot of time. But at the same time, there may be extra streams sometimes in between those streams where I bring on a guest. And I want to do more guest streams. So expect more guest streams, less streams of me. And yeah, that should be good as well. If you aren't already, make sure to go watch the Perth video or throw it in your watch later to watch it. It's actually really interesting, I think. And as I mentioned previously, though not on stream, I'm making less videos now, so I'm trying to do more animations and just really finesse the videos, make them look really good. So I think this Perth video is definitely quite nice visually. There's a lot of animations and stuff in it, so give it a shot. I think it's really interesting and a great example of high quality suburban transit, and also just a city that is people sadly don't think about enough, that has a really good transit. So Perth, nice, good work. Yes, I think monorail is a weak gadget bond. There are a couple monorail technologies, and there's a lot of monorail systems, but they're non-standard and they have a lot of issues. I have not heard about delays on the east side extension of the link in Seattle, but I feel like it was supposed to be open by now, so I guess it has been delayed. But it seems like it's mostly complete. So I think someone is mentioning a good example of wayfinding in the UK. I want bad examples of wayfinding. So if you have bad examples, again, email them to me or Twitter message them to me. Actually, you can't Twitter message them to me, at me on Twitter, and send them. If you aren't already, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, email is the best way to send information and reach out. Can shuttle buses replace cars in suburbs? What type of bus size makes the most sense for around town routes? I think small buses can definitely be super useful for suburban circulators and the like. The issue tends to come down to, I think, fixed routes. I think that with on-demand transit, there's actually a lot of potential. It's something I've had to come around to a bit, but I do think that if you have an established transit system and you're trying to connect a bunch of people to transit in a suburban area, especially in an area that's not traditionally conducive to transit, like the kind of spaghetti suburbs of North America, having on-demand is probably actually one of the better options. The thing with these kind of suburbs is they're easy to navigate in a car or a small bus, as long as you have some set destinations. What becomes hard is serving them with fixed routes. But if we can have more on-demand transit in these kind of, Mississauga, Ontario-style suburbs or Levittown, New York-style suburbs, we could probably have a much better suburban bus coverage. Now, Toronto has shown that there's an even higher tier you can go to, but I think on-demand has a lot of potential. Thanks for the super chat, David. Thank you for all the great transit videos. I'm a train geek, but no trains here in NL. I think that means Newfoundland. I also love learning about train systems around the world. I think that one thing I wish would change more about the transit community is there's an over obsession with the local. And I get it. Like, I live in Toronto and I talk about Toronto a lot, but it's so valuable to go and look at other systems because we can learn from them. But also it's just kind of nice to accumulate that knowledge and to have cross comparisons you can make and to think of examples and the like. I think it's super valuable. I understand why with San Diego studying a trolley to the airport, and it makes sense that it would be more expensive, but still it seems crazy how expensive that would be. It's good to hear that animations are appreciated, but I would definitely like to see what you think about this specific video, so definitely go check it out, and I will continue to be doing more animations. This is an interesting question. What are your thoughts on SFU's gondola over funicular railway? The thing with funicular is that it's more expensive to build because you need to, well, I should say in the case of Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, because you have not a clear shot where you can just build the funicular track, you would need to probably, impact the environment more because you can't have, vehicles going above as much wildlife. You potentially would need tunnels and the like, so it's very difficult to do. And again, there's a lot of roads and such around SFU, so it's a lot more challenging than a gondola. So I think a funicular would be really cool, but it's harder to build. And if you're just getting on too, I do have an announcement to make that I will make after I get to the bottom of the chat, which I'm almost at anyways, and after I talk about the rest of what I've learned about YouTube. And then after that, I'll probably talk about my trip to Ottawa. And so if you have questions about Ottawa or just general questions, feel free to ask them. I thought Newfoundland, NL is not going to be Netherlands because there's a lot of trains in the Netherlands. Yeah, exactly. When will California's high-speed rail be canceled? Well, it's hard to say. I wouldn't say that the project has been canceled, but it's not moving forward in a way that would create a cohesive high-speed rail project, right? So it's not really happening right now. So it's one of those things that it's very hard to state what it means for something to be canceled. If someone is out shoveling drainage ditches for future tracks, is the project canceled or is it underway, right? So I think it's just kind of a technicality. Do you have a plan for Miami or Boston Transit Explained? I may do Boston. I think I know some people in Boston who watch the channel who could probably help with footage. Miami, less likely. I want to, again, work my way from the most well-known and, in my opinion, successful transit systems. And Miami's not actually as bad as you might expect, but there are a lot of systems I want to cover first. Like Vienna, I have plans to cover. I have plans to cover Helsinki, plans to cover Madrid, Istanbul. What else is on my list? There's a lot of cities on my list. Manchester as well. Some cities in North America, cities in Asia. So lots of different stuff. I think park and ride. I don't think I said park and rides were negative so much as that, I think we overuse park and rides, at least in where I live and in a lot of North America. I think park and rides can be useful, and you see them in places in Europe and Asia because some people live in rural areas and direct transit access is probably not a reasonable thing or reasonable expectation. And so having a park and ride is a good way for people to park and ride into a city, and I think that's a good thing to have. It's when you have these giant park and rides designed to just funnel people from suburbs into a city that would be better served directly with transit that you have problems. Do you have a video explaining all the terms you use? That is difficult, and I think ultimately the best way to find out about a term I've used is to leave a comment, and someone will probably reply about what I'm referring to. But if you have any specific terms that you're thinking of, leave them in the chat, and maybe people can help, and I can help as well. Have you been to South America? Yes, I have. Love the videos. Just moved to the Humber Bay Shores area and am dying to see them start building the Park Lawn Go and streetcar station. I'm super excited for that too. I can see Humber Bay Shores from my window, and yeah, it's a super cool development area, super dense, super nice. I kind of would like to live in Humber Bay Shores, to be honest. So who knows what will happen in the future. Yeah, I don't like moving a ton, but the rental and property market in Canada, as you probably know if you're from Canada, or if you might even know if you're not from Canada, is insane. So frequent moves have kind of become a byproduct of that. Okay, there are some good questions here, but before I answer them, I'm going to talk about a few more things I've learned from doing YouTube over the years. These are negative things, so bear with me. But I think it's important to share these things because I think if people are thinking about starting YouTube, or if they're trying to understand like what it's like to do YouTube, what people who they enjoy watching videos from might be thinking, I think these points will be helpful. So YouTube as a job. So I commented in my 100,000 subscribers video that YouTube is my job now, and people were saying the usual stuff like, oh, that's so cool, and I agree, it's really cool, but YouTube as a job in many ways sucks. That's not to say I don't think YouTube is a cool platform and everything, but the way things are organized, it makes it really hard to have as a job, and it's not a job that I think you necessarily want, especially if you're in a niche area where it's harder to get a lot of traction. I'm really happy that RMTransit has 100,000 subscribers, and I think that's super cool, and I'm super proud of it. But at the same time, it's really difficult because it's a niche topic, and I think a lot of niche topics deserve more coverage, but it's hard, right? Because there aren't massive crowds of people who watch videos and stuff. And because of that, and because of the algorithm and other things, YouTube can be really inconsistent. If you ever notice that I usually ask people to go watch the videos, it's because you can have a large number of subscribers and only a small percentage of them will often watch videos. And sometimes a video that you worked on for a lot of time doesn't get many views, and that might be because people are not interested, but it could also just be because your video is not being shared or pushed to people's subscriber boxes. I watch a lot of YouTube myself, and I've definitely noticed over the years it's gotten a lot worse with videos from creators I really like, just not going into my subscriber box, and I just don't see the video, and I miss a video that I would have loved to watch, and that means that creator doesn't make as much money at the end of the month, and so it's difficult in that sense. At the same time, there's no benefits, of course, on YouTube, but there's also no coworkers, really. I mean, you do have other YouTubers, and I love, Alan, and Not Just Bikes, and Jago Hazard, and Jeff, Marshall, and all of these other people, but it's not the same as having, like, real office coworkers who you can just message, and you're, like, all working on the same thing at the same time, and you're probably in a similar location and stuff, and that's hard, because especially during the pandemic, you don't have like a social circle around you, and so that's a little bit crazy. At the same time, when you're a creator or you're like making stuff on the internet, everyone has an opinion about what you're saying, and that's reasonable. I mean, like, that's part of why you're creating stuff, is to get people to share what they think about it. But it's often it's tiring and difficult, because a lot of the time people say, like, oh, you should do more of this with your videos or more of that with your videos. And for me personally, I've been making videos for over 5 years now, and I've made hundreds, and so it sometimes feels like people are kind of demanding, like, oh, you should make more of this, and it's like, well, I've been making videos for a long time. I think I have a pretty good idea of what I want to make videos about, because I'm interested, but also because of what I'm kind of restricted to make videos about, because the thing with YouTube is that ultimately it's all based on how much you can get someone to click on a video and how much of the video you can get people to watch, right? And so you're pushed in a certain direction, and I don't necessarily like that. I think it can be helpful sometimes, trying to make a topic more interesting and things like that. But there's a lot of really important videos or videos that I'm really passionate about that don't get very many views, and that's sometimes disappointing. At the same time, I guess I can say that, like, one of the biggest reasons people for a long time asked me, why do you make so many videos? Because I am, as I mentioned earlier in this stream, slowing that down a bit. And the reality is that on YouTube, as I mentioned before, it's inconsistent income. And if you make more videos, you kind of have more shots to have a video do okay or do well, but you also have just kind of a more consistent flow of people watching your videos, and actually seeing the videos, which means that the amount of money you make is more consistent, and you can kind of rely on it a bit more. I remember there have been times when, from month to month on YouTube, your like income will be half as much from one month to another, and that makes it really hard to make it your job, right? So that's why making a lot of videos was really helpful, is because not only do you get a lot of videos you're releasing, so every second day you release a video and people can watch it, and you can talk about a topic you're interested in, and that means more videos, but it also means you have more videos in your kind of back catalog that people can watch if they're interested in a topic, right? And so I think that's really valuable. A lot of the time when there is something that people want to know about, I can refer to an older video, and that's something that's really helpful. So that's one of the things you should consider, is that if something seems strange that a creator is doing, it's often just because they've kind of either they've learned that this is a good approach to take and it might seem strange, but it's just what people end up liking, or at the same time, maybe because they're kind of like subconsciously being pushed in that direction because that's just what performs well on the platform. So I think that's something kind of interesting to consider. And also just, you see so much as a creator. You see so many comments from people, and a lot of them are really nice, and a lot of them are really not nice, and it can make you completely miserable. And so it's a very different platform when you're a creator versus not a creator. And I think that, a lot of the time too with like comments, people don't think that it has an impact because when you're writing the comment, it's such a casual thing. And I know people talk about this all the time, but it's real. Like if you're a creator and someone comments something that's even a little bit rude or just kind of terse or whatever, it has an effect because, to make a video, even a video that seems like it's, not an explainer for me, it's a lot of work and like someone poured a lot of their time into it and did research and stuff. So like when people leave rude comments, it sucks, especially because when you're starting YouTube and until you have a pretty decent following, and thus you're getting a decent amount of views on a regular basis, you're not making any substantial money. To monetize your YouTube channel, you need 1,000 subscribers, but that doesn't mean you're making a lot of money when you have 1,000 subscribers or anything. That's just the threshold. And I think people don't appreciate that a lot of YouTubers are making videos because they're passionate about it, not because they're making money. YouTube it's a situation that, like most things in life, a few people are making a lot of money and most people are probably not making a lot of money. And that's fine because YouTube is a cool place to share stuff and communicate things, but it's just good to know from a perception standpoint. Let me see if there's another thing I was going to mention. Yes. The last point is kind of about like why YouTubers create different things. This is my last point on this topic, and then I'll get off it. But and I'll talk about the O train and reply to some comments and stuff, as well as give an announcement. If you weren't here earlier, doing an announcement. So stay tuned. So the last thing is that, well, first of all, when you become a social media public figure, people, as they are entitled to, will talk about you on the web, which isn't really fun, especially because, if you disagree with someone, but there's just, two of you sitting in a room, you can chat about it. But when a large number of people disagree with you on the internet, they'll write things about you and say this and that, but you don't really have a way of responding. You could respond, but it will basically never end up looking good. So that's not a great situation, and it's something you face a lot if you're talking about sometimes contentious issues like transit. At the same time, it's really hard to get across this kind of weird cross section between you make videos and you have to make them interesting, while also being factual, while also fitting so many different criteria and doing so many things for so many different people. And it can be really difficult. And I think people are not generally generous enough with creators online, with the research they put in and things like that. And so it's something to consider. And I wanted to share that because I think, hey, I'm on this side of things, and if I can share like what it's like to do YouTube with people, I think that's helpful. So if you have any questions about YouTube or about my channel or about the future and things like that, leave them in the chat. I'm going to start going through the chat. After a bit, I'll talk more about the O train. I'll do that announcement. Should be good. Okay. So, have you tried to make some of your videos for government officials more than the general public? Definitely not, and I've definitely talked to government officials, but I would say that the general public is who watches my videos, and I make them for the general public, of which government officials are also technically members of when they're not being government officials, like when they go home and they might watch YouTube, or if they're on the train to work, which doesn't happen nearly enough. But yeah. What other neighborhoods are heavily built up that deserve attention? North York Center in Toronto, definitely. Liberty Village. Maybe like Mississauga City Center. Those are ones I would think of. What other? Oh, actually, no. I just read that one. Do you think Toronto's new subway and LRT projects should use Toronto gauge? No, I don't think it's important. Um, you don't see a ton of trains interlining between various lines in most metro systems or most cities, so I don't think it's an important thing. And I think having being able to procure standard rolling stock is a lot more valuable. Can CBTC be installed on street running trams? Yes, definitely. CBTC, right, is going to be used on the Eglinton Crosstown. So that's an example. Of course, lots of systems in Europe and other parts of the world also use CBTC. It's just that when you have mixed traffic, that's where you have the difficulty actually using the CBTC, right? So that would be my answer there. California high-speed rail compared to China's massive amounts of high-speed rail built in 10 years. I don't think I need to say that there's a huge difference. Some positive for California, some positive for China between these two projects. China has done impressive stuff with high-speed rail, but let's not try to pretend that California could build rail the same way China could. At the same time, California has definitely messed up in a bunch of places, and, rightly. What microphone is this? This is the Shure SM7B. Have you considered a video about transit and walkability scores and how accurate or inaccurate they are? Actually, I think Oh the Urbanity, great channel, go check them out, has a video, I believe, talking about walk score. But maybe. I think it's a pretty good idea. Any updates on REM East? No, the project is still kind of being developed as far as I know, but maybe on Monday we're going to hear something. Sounds like it may not be the best news. But if the REM East is canceled, the chances I've moved to Montreal are reduced by some number that is more than 10% and less than 100%. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for the super chat, Brock. I'm new to the channel, so you may have covered this. Have you ever got into the Game Cities Skylines? Those gaming videos lead me here. Okay, so I didn't know that City Skyline videos led people to my channel, which is interesting. I have played City Skylines. I have a litany of problems with that game. I think it's fun, but there are so many things as a transit person that I wish the game had. The previous game by Paradox, I believe by Paradox, Cities in Motion, I played, and it had a bunch of features that City Skylines doesn't have. And yes, there are mods and stuff, but I don't want to deal with mods. I want a solid vanilla game with transit. And that's not to say that City Skylines isn't, but it's kind of cartoony in a lot of ways. I'm a really big fan of, Transport Fever, I think. I think that game, especially the way rail works in it, is a really nice, really accurate. So I prefer that, and I would love if City Skylines could be more like that. High-speed rail for Brisbane, Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne has been talked about for decades. Nothing built. I think there's a good point to be made, but it should be built. Though I would say just Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne. I think Brisbane would have to be something later, and it's a lot harder. Move to where I am now, Argentina. Great, cheap transit. Cheap, great transit. It's good. Definitely solid for North America. Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea. What annoys me is when YouTube recommends me videos I've already watched, maybe from earlier that day. Well, I'll still go and rewatch stuff. I want to seek new stuff, not old stuff. Definitely agree. I like rewatching stuff from time to time, and sometimes you forget what happens in a video or what was talked about, and so it can be useful, but I agree that's not as useful as new content. But some subjects don't have a ton of content in them, right? So it can be difficult. What video of yours has the most views? You can actually go on the channel and hit most viewed, and you'll see all of the videos ranked on views. My biggest gripe with YouTube is live videos. I never get any notifications when people go live. That's why I always try to post in advance. But make sure you hit the bell icon. Like if you're watching right now and you haven't hit the bell icon, please do, because it's kind of like what you would expect subscribing does. Is there a way to know where people live and work? Would be nice to have direct transit access to work instead of transfers. I mean, this is possible, but it's difficult. Direct access to work sounds like integrated TOD with a subway station might be great. Thanks for the video on Perth, although those local name mispronunciations. I think I only mispronounced one name from the people I've talked to. I think that, and I think to a large extent, the mispronunciation of something is the reality is I'm from Canada, and so the way I speak English is different from the way someone in Australia speaks English. So it's just inevitable that some things are going to come out differently. So pronunciation, people are often pedantic about, I think, but it was an enjoyable video to make. I saw on an Instagram question and answer, follow me on Instagram, if you didn't like the new New York City subway trains. Why? They have some walk-through gangways, great LCD screens. They look very nice. I don't think they look modern enough. I know, the aesthetics are subjective and the like, but something that doesn't look so similar to old New York City trains would be nice. Change things up. It's 2022. We can have a different looking design. That looks more interesting. Look to Japan for lots of interesting examples of cool, colorful designs. Some trains will have open gangways, though it's moving extremely slowly, and I'm just not satisfied with the pace of progress in New York. Some features are nice for sure, but it's just too little, too late, I would say. So, looks like I'm almost at the bottom of the chat. Okay, actually, never mind. Almost, actually. Interesting about the O train. I am with you and hope that they make it fully double track and electrify it at standard 25 kV, even if they have to build a new tunnel. I think 25 kV might be more than we will see, but I think 1500 volts DC is probably fine for line 2. 25 kV AC could be really good, but I don't know, with clearances and stuff, it may become a bit of an issue. Will trolley poles be removed from TTC streetcars as the system transitions to pantographs? Will new Flexities on order have trolley poles pre-installed? Both questions that I have definitely seen the answers to and forget. I want to say that they will be removed, if I recall correctly, but we will see. With regard to whether the new ones will have trolley poles pre-installed, I think the plan was actually originally to not have all of them have trolley poles installed, but the installation of pantograph-capable overhead wires was kind of delayed, and so that's why it happened. So probably in the future. Are Crystal Movers and Enovia APM less of a gadget bond compared to Val? Probably because they're more widely deployed. I think Enovia APM is probably the most widely deployed. Kind of Crystal Mover is pretty widely too, but I think mainly in Japan, the same way Val is mainly in France. A lot of people having conversations in the chat, so I'm trying to find messages. Are you considering doing a video on transit safety concerns? I think that transit is pretty safe, but not everyone thinks so. I don't know how much to say about transit safety, besides that if your transit system doesn't make people feel safe and secure, people won't want to use it, and that's obviously a huge issue in parts of the world. So that's what I'll say. Do you think LA should consider monorail for the Sepulveda project? The video with the most views on the channel is India is building the most metros in the world with 521,000 views. Thank you, Brian, for putting that here. I'm just scrolling up. Could you do a demystified on the Brisbane Metro? I don't want to give that system any more attention than it has already gotten. What can draw people to suburbs? Attractions, malls, parks, etc.? Yeah. Are you ever going to do a video on Bay Area Transit? I've definitely done a bunch on Bay Area Transit. You don't mention Caltrain, but I've talked about Caltrain pretty extensively, and I've talked about BART and the like as well. More Bay Area Transit videos will probably happen, but honestly, the Bay Area is kind of messy for transit, so I'm maybe waiting for some more unification and that sort of thing to happen. Are there other cities that have tram metros like Ottawa? Would be cool to see a video about that. A few systems do. Vienna is the well-known one with U6, I believe. Just wanted to say I really enjoy your videos. Keep up the great work. Thanks so much. Aditya says, to handle crowds efficiently, do you think transit trains have designated doors for entry and exit, and escalators should only be for climbing up? I don't think designated doors for entry and exit is necessary, but that's kind of what a Spanish solution can do if it's well implemented. Escalators, I think, can be bidirectional. It's fine. You'll see in major systems that often more escalators will move in the peak direction, and they'll switch directions when the peak direction changes to help with capacity. Favorite gadget on monorails? Come on. I still think monorails are kind of cool, right? I just think they're a gadget bomb that we shouldn't really be building. Have you been to Shanghai? Yes, I have. Okay, 1500 volts DC, so it is compatible with O-Train Line 1. Yes, but also just because 25 kV AC is can potentially lead to more arcing, so you need more clearance. Hi, Reece. Did you do a video previously on the right-of-way streetcars on St. Clair Avenue? Has there been anything indicating it was a success? I think it was definitely a success in terms of improving consistency to some extent, and obviously a success in terms of creating dedicated space. But has it made the vehicles that much faster? I don't think so. So I'm lukewarm on the project. I think that turning the streetcars into LRT would actually be a pretty good project with proper signal priority and less stops and the like, but I don't think we've really done that with the dedicated right-of-way streetcars. What's the difference between AC and DC? I have a video on how to power your trains, but suffice to say that AC requires more onboard equipment, also better for longer distances because you can have a much wider spacing between your substations. DC has the benefit of lighter equipment. Typically you can use it with third rail, so that's what I would say. Are there systems you're keen to cover but find it difficult to find footage of? Systems in Africa and India, which people always ask me about but are hard to find footage of. What about using Elon Musk's tunnels to build fast direct bike lanes instead of roads? That's actually that's a good idea. Is it as optimal as having surface bike lanes where people can actually be outside? Probably not, but in some cases that could actually be useful, especially if you have rough terrain, right? And a lot of hills, having tunnels that could kind of cut across them could actually be legitimately quite useful. So yes, actually. Do you think Metro's plan to convert freight locomotives for passenger service is a bad or good idea? It's a bad idea. What do you think the next Canadian city to get a metro or light rail system will be? I don't think any cities will be getting one anytime soon that don't have them already, besides, I guess, Quebec City. So yeah, so I'm at the bottom of the chat, and so I have an announcement to make, which is that I'm starting a Substack. If you haven't heard of Substack, fear not. I will explain what it is. Essentially, it's kind of a hybrid between a newsletter and a blog. And so what it is you can subscribe to someone's Substack. I will share the link to mine in the chat. And to be clear, you can subscribe for free, but there are paid subscriptions, and in the future I might do paid exclusive content. That's yet to be seen. This is in part to help me diversify away from YouTube, in part to help me cover more stuff that I wouldn't be able to make YouTube videos about because making a video takes a lot of time, whereas writing is a part of making YouTube video, but obviously YouTube video requires filming, editing, exporting, doing all kinds of extra stuff that writing doesn't require. And so the plan is to use Substack to talk about a lot more topics, sometimes in more detail and more niche topics. And so starting it, you should definitely subscribe. Basically what happens is if you subscribe, you get an email whenever I make a post. If you're not familiar with email newsletters, the nice thing, you can just read it right in your email app. You don't have to go to a website or anything. Open the email, read it, all good. But also, of course, all of the pieces I write will be stored on the website, which you can access in the future. You can link to and like, which makes it really good for sharing and stuff like that. And it's also really good in the sense that written content makes it easy for me to link to things. So if there's a study I want to talk about, or some report, or some development, it's really easy for me to link to it in a way that isn't easy on YouTube. And so if I want to talk about something really specific, I can do that via this. And so, of course, as usual, nothing is changing with YouTube. I'm still going to continue to make videos and the like. But the nice thing about this is that I'll have another platform that I can operate on. I continue becoming less reliant on YouTube, hopefully. And at the same time, I can make content about more and interesting stuff. So I'm going to post the link in the chat. You should definitely check it out and subscribe. Hopefully the first piece, which comes out tomorrow, will be good. It's talking about something I don't like in transit. So I think it should be really interesting. So I will probably stay on for a little bit longer, mainly if there are any questions about Ottawa or about YouTube stuff. Otherwise, I am going to go get back to writing because I have a lot of videos I'm working on. Would you ever consider adding videos to Floatplane? Honestly, with videos, it's hard enough to already manage Patreon and YouTube, so probably not. But it would all depend on the future. If YouTube is still working and stuff like that. It's definitely something I would consider. I'm a big LTT fan and everything, but probably not now. But if I feel the need for another video platform, maybe I'll do that in the future. That's kind of already the role that Patreon plays for me. So yeah. Are you planning on making another video about Australia? Yeah, I'm planning on doing lots of videos about Australia, and I'll probably do some articles about Australia as well, because there are a lot of things I want to talk about that I feel like wouldn't necessarily make great videos, but they could make really interesting articles. So talking about, should any Australian cities build proper metros? I think so, and I'm going to make the case for it on the Substack. So make sure to subscribe, and check out the piece I'm releasing tomorrow. And then I'll definitely be doing more stuff on Australia and all kinds of places around the world on there as well. And the ability for me to create something there should be a lot easier than videos. So that should be good. How did you learn about VAL, rubber tire metro undercarriages? Aren't train schematics proprietary? If not, where do you find them? You can kind of do some Googling, and usually you can find this stuff sometimes from academic papers and stuff like that. Are you going to make a video on the LA Purple Line extension? I feel like maybe I should, but at the same time, as much as it's a really good transit project, it's one that's like not super interesting for video. It's a linear corridor, straight extension. It will be successful, as mentioned, but doesn't go all the way to the ocean, which would make it way cooler, in my personal opinion. It's entirely underground, so just doesn't have a lot of elements that I think would make it a super interesting video. And then plus, I don't have tons of footage and pictures. So yeah, I definitely think it would be easier to make videos about projects in the United States if transit agencies reached out to me and said, hey, like, do you want to come to LA on my dime and film stuff? When I went out to Ottawa is because they invited me to come look at the construction of the O-Train expansion, which was so cool, and I think great on them because I can make a video about the expansion, and so people can see it. I haven't really got many invites like that from other places. Obviously, Montreal and Toronto have done it a bit, but it would be really cool to get it for different places across the US. So if you're interested in me doing videos about places, I don't know, reach out to your local transit project and say, hey, this guy makes videos. You should invite him to come make a video about our system. yeah, so that's that. I'm going to respond to a few more comments, and then I think that's it for the day. Should we have more urban or urbane gondolas in North America? And is there a location that is more suitable for it? Yeah, I think anywhere with difficult geography can be suitable, but there are some challenges with gondolas potentially. Really enjoying having a Canadian creator talk about transit. Great to hear. And also, yeah, I think everything with me, to be clear with the Substack too, it's all rooted in Canada. That's not to say I don't have tons of interest in other places as well, but as long as I'm living in Toronto, I'll talk a lot of detail about Toronto. And if anyone can convince me to move to Perth for however that ends up happening, maybe I'll start writing stuff about the intricacies of Perth or Melbourne or Sydney. If anyone has a transit-related job you want to get me over there, maybe it'll happen. I'll respond to a few more here. Do you think the Second Avenue subway should stop at Phase 2? No, I think it should be completely rethought so it's not so ridiculously expensive and kind of underwhelming, though. I discovered your channel a month ago. Great work, thanks. The Substack says that free subscribers don't get full access to the archive. I think they do. I think that's something I can change, but I don't really have an archive now. So for now, it's, I guess that's that. I think that probably just means that because some posts in the archive would be like paid subscriber only posts. So I don't think that's the case, but we shall see. Yeah, I think you'll probably be able to get most of the pieces for free. So yeah, I think if there's nothing else too specific, then I will head off for the day. Thank you all for your support. If you haven't seen it, watch the Perth video, check it out. I think it's really good. Consider supporting the channel on Patreon or YouTube memberships, or if you, for whatever reason, really want to get on the Substack bandwagon, then yeah, get a Substack subscription, and we'll see what happens. I'll post content, so it's not like you're taking much of a risk. But yeah, thanks everyone so much for coming and spending some time with me, and see you next month. Link in the video description for the next